Arthur Conan Doyle, The Study in Scarlet. Chapter 1. Mr. Sherlock Holmes. In 1878, I completed my medical studies at the University of London. After that, I went to Netley to finish the training needed for army doctors. When I finished there, I became an assistant surgeon in the 5th Northumberland Fusiliers. At that time, the regiment was in India. Before I could join them, the Second Afghan War started. When I arrived in Bombay, I learned that my regiment had already gone through the mountain passes and was far inside enemy land. Like many other officers, I followed them and safely reached Kandahar. There, I found my regiment and began my new work. Many soldiers received medals and promotions during the war, but my experience was very different. I was taken away from my brigade and sent to serve with the Berkshires. I fought with them at the Battle of Maiwand, which ended badly. During the battle, I was shot in the shoulder by a Jezail bullet. The bone was badly broken, and an important artery was damaged. I would have been captured and killed by the enemy soldiers if my orderly, Murray, had not saved me. He put me onto a pack horse and brought me safely back to the British lines. I was in terrible pain and very weak after all I had suffered. Together with many other wounded men, I was taken to the base hospital in Peshawar. There my conditions slowly got better. After some time, I was able to walk inside the hospital and even sit outside on the veranda in the sun. However, I then became sick with enteric fever, a serious illness common in India. For many months, people thought I would die. When I finally got better, I was extremely weak and very thin. A medical board decided that I had to be sent back to England as soon as possible. I was placed on a troop ship called Orontes and arrived in England a month later at Portsmouth. My health was badly damaged, but the government gave me 9 months to rest and try to recover. I had no family or close relatives in England, so I was completely alone. I was free to live as I wanted, at least as free as a man can be with an income of 11 shillings and 6 pence a day. In this situation, I naturally went to London, that great city which seems to attract lonely and idle people from all parts of the empire. I stayed for some time in a private hotel in the Strand. My life there was uncomfortable and without direction, and I spent my money much more easily than I should have. Soon my financial situation became serious. I understood that I had only 2 choices: either leave London and live cheaply somewhere in the countryside, or completely change the way I was living. I chose the second option. I decided to leave the hotel and find a place that was simpler and cheaper. On the same day I made this decision, I was standing at the Criterion bar when someone touched me on the shoulder. I turned around and recognized a young man named Stamford, who had once worked under me as a dresser at Bart's Hospital. Seeing a familiar face in the great loneliness of London was truly pleasant. In the past, Stamford had not been a close friend of mine, but now I greeted him warmly, and he seemed just as pleased to see me. Feeling happy, I invited him to have lunch with me at the Holborn, and we went there together in a hansom cab. "What have you been doing all this time, Watson?" he asked in clear surprise as we drove through the crowded streets of London. "You are as thin as a stick and as brown as a nut." I gave him a short summary of my adventures, and I had just finished when we arrived. "Poor fellow," he said kindly after hearing my story. "And what are you doing now?" "I am looking for a place to live," I answered. "I am trying to see if it is possible to find comfortable rooms at a reasonable price." "That is interesting," he said. "You are the second person today who has said exactly the same thing to me." "And who was the first?" I asked. "A man who works in the chemical laboratory at the hospital," he replied. "This morning he was complaining that he could not find anyone to share some very nice rooms he had found. They were too expensive for him to pay alone." "Really?" I said. If he wants someone to share the rooms and the cost, I am exactly the right person. I would much rather share with someone than live alone. Young Stamford looked at me in a strange way over his glass of wine. You do not know Sherlock Holmes yet, he said. You might not like him as someone you live with all the time. Why? What is wrong with him? I asked. Oh, I did not say that anything was wrong, he replied. He is just a little unusual in his ideas. He is very interested in some areas of science. As far as I know, he is a decent man. A medical student, I suppose? I said. No, I do not think so. I really do not know what he plans to become. I believe he knows a lot about anatomy, and he is an excellent chemist. But as far as I know, he has never attended regular medical classes. His studies are irregular and unusual, but he has collected a large amount of rare knowledge that would surprise his professors. Did you ever ask him what he wanted to do? I asked. No, Stamford said. He is not an easy man to question, although sometimes he can speak openly when he feels like it. I would like to meet him, I said. If I am going to share rooms with someone, I would prefer a quiet and hard-working man. I am not strong enough yet for much noise or excitement. I had more than enough of that in Afghanistan to last me my whole life. How can I meet this friend of yours? He is almost certainly in the laboratory, Stamford answered. Sometimes he stays away for weeks, and at other times he works there from morning until night. If you like, we can go there together after lunch. Certainly, I said, and we began to talk about other things. After we left the Holborn, we walked towards the hospital. On the way, Stamford told me a little more about the man I was thinking of choosing as a roommate. You must not blame me if you do not get along with him, he said. I only know him from meeting him sometimes in the laboratory. You suggested this idea, so you must not make me responsible. If we do not get along, we can easily separate and live apart, I replied. But tell me, Stamford, I added, looking closely at him. You seem very ready to step away from this matter. Is this man's temper so bad, or what is the problem? Do not hide the truth. Stamford laughed. It is difficult to explain, he said. Holmes is a little too scientific for my liking. He almost seems without feeling. I can imagine him giving a friend a small amount of a new plant poison. Not to hurt him, of course, but only to see what effect it would have. To be fair, I think he would take it himself just as easily. He has a strong desire for exact and accurate knowledge. That seems completely reasonable to me, I said. Yes, but this love of science can become too strong, Stamford continued. When a man starts hitting dead bodies in the dissecting room with a stick, that is certainly very strange. Hitting dead bodies? I cried. Yes, to discover how much bruising can appear after death. I saw him doing it myself. And yet, you say he is not a medical student? No. Heaven knows what he is really studying. But here we are, and you must judge him yourself. As he spoke, we turned into a narrow passage and went through a small side door, which led into one part of the large hospital. I knew the place well and did not need anyone to guide me. We went up a cold stone staircase and walked along a long corridor with white walls and dark brown doors. Near the end, a low, arched passage led to the chemical laboratory. The laboratory was a tall room filled with many bottles. Large tables stood around the room, covered with test tubes, glass jars, and small Bunsen burners with blue flames. Only one student was there. He was bending over a table, completely focused on his work. When he heard our steps, he looked up and jumped to his feet with a shout of joy. "I have found it! I have found it!" he cried, running towards us with the test tube in his hand. I have discovered a substance that reacts only with hemoglobin and with nothing else." His face showed such happiness that you might have thought he had found gold. "Dr. Watson, Mr. Sherlock Holmes," said Stamford, introducing us. "How do you do?" Holmes said kindly, shaking my hand with surprising strength. "You have been in Afghanistan, I see." "How did you know that?" I asked in surprise. "Never mind," he said with a quiet laugh. "What is important now is hemoglobin. You understand how important this discovery is, do you not?" "It is interesting from a chemical point of view," I replied, "but in practice—" "Practical?" he cried. "It is the most important medical discovery in many years. Do you not see? It gives us a perfect test for bloodstains. Come here immediately." He caught my sleeve excitedly and pulled me to the table where he had been working. "We need some fresh blood," he said. He pricked his finger with a sharp needle and collected a drop of blood in a small glass tube. "Now I add this small amount of blood to a large amount of water. You see, it looks like clean water. The blood is less than 1 part in a million. Still, I am certain we will see the reaction." As he spoke, he dropped a few white crystals into the glass and then added some clear liquid. Immediately, the liquid turned dark brown, like old wood, and a brown powder fell to the bottom of the glass. "Ha ha!" he cried, clapping his hands like a happy child. "What do you think of that?" "It seems to be a very sensitive test," I said. "Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. The old Guiacum test was awkward and unreliable. The microscopic test for blood cells is also useless if the stain is more than a few hours old. But this test works just as well with old blood as with fresh blood. If this method had existed before, hundreds of men who are free now would have been punished for their crimes long ago." "Indeed," I said quietly. "Many criminal cases depend on this exact question. A man may be suspected months after a crime. His clothes are examined, and brown stains are found. But what are they? Blood, mud, rust, fruit juice, or something else? That question has confused experts for years because there was no reliable test. Now we have the Sherlock Holmes test, and there will be no more doubt." His eyes were shining with excitement as he spoke. He put his hand on his chest and bowed slightly, as if an invisible audience were clapping for him. "You deserve congratulations," I said, surprised by his excitement. "There was the von Bischoff case in Frankfurt last year," he continued. "He would certainly have been executed if this test had existed. Then there were Mason of Bradford, the famous Muller, Lefebvre of Montpellier, and Sampson of New Orleans. I could name many more cases where this test would have changed everything." "You speak like a living crime calendar," Stamford said with a laugh. "You should start a newspaper. Call it Police News of the Past." "It could be very interesting to read," said Sherlock Holmes, putting a small plaster over the cut on his finger. "I must be careful," he added with a smile in my direction, "because I often work with poisons." He held out his hand, and I saw that it was covered with small plasters and marked by strong chemicals. "We came here for a reason," said Stamford, sitting down on a high 3-legged stool and pushing another one toward me. "My friend here is looking for rooms. Since you were complaining that you could not find anyone to share with you, I thought it was best to introduce you." Sherlock Holmes seemed pleased with the idea of sharing rooms with me. "I have noticed some rooms in Baker Street," he said. "They would suit us very well. You do not mind the smell of strong tobacco, I hope?" "I smoke ship's tobacco myself," I replied. "That is good. I also keep chemicals in my rooms and sometimes do experiments. Would that trouble you?" "Not at all," I said. "Let me think. What other bad habits do I have?" he said. "Sometimes I feel very depressed and do not speak for days. You must not think I am angry when that happens. Just leave me alone, and I will soon be all right. Now it is your turn. It is best for two people to know the worst about each other before they begin living together. I laughed at this serious examination. I keep a bull puppy, I said, and I hate noise because my nerves are weak. I get up at very unusual hours, and I am very lazy. I have other bad habits when I am healthy, but these are the main ones at present. Do you consider violin playing to be noise? He asked nervously. That depends on the person playing, I replied. A violin played well is a pleasure to hear. A violin played badly, well... Oh, that is all right, he cried, laughing happily. Then we can say the matter is settled, if you approve of the rooms. When shall we see them? I asked. Come here tomorrow at 12 o'clock, he said, and we will go together and arrange everything. Agreed. Exactly at 12, I said, shaking his hand. We left him working with his chemicals and walked back toward my hotel. By the way, I suddenly asked, stopping and turning to Stamford, how in the world did he know I had been in Afghanistan? Stamford smiled in a mysterious way. That is one of his little habits, he said. Many people have wondered how he discovers things. Oh, so it is a mystery, I said, rubbing my hands. That makes it even more interesting. Thank you for bringing us together. As the saying goes, the proper study of mankind is man. Then you must study him, Stamford said as he said goodbye. You will find him a difficult problem. I believe he will learn more about you than you will learn about him. Goodbye. Goodbye, I answered, and walked back to my hotel, very curious about my new acquaintance.